He stand there's mon in his natural, oblivious automnesically of his very proprium. Such a stockpot leaden, so did sunspoon crake, the want to be wanton made, a will to be wise. Thrust from the light, apophoter rejected, his poor loves from her heats. There's like 600 pages more of this stuff, but I think you get the idea. So the way that some people talk about Battle Garegga makes it seem like it's the Finnegan's Wake of shoot 'em ups. But you know, this book, this damn book, this cannot be understood. But Battle Garegga can be. It can even be enjoyed. And so I thought I'd make this video to maybe try and inspire more people to get into Garegga and maybe even Rising in general, and to kind of vent some of the thoughts that I've been having for a long time about the kind of discourse. Yes, I use the D word, the discourse around Garegga, and especially around the difficulty of the game. Now, I'm not going to say that Garegga isn't tough or that you don't need to study it to be able to clear it, because it is and you have to. But how tough is it really? Because again, the way that some people talk about it makes it seem like it's this impossible thing, and I think it scares a lot of people off because for me, Garegga seems roughly equivalent to a kind of a tough cave 1-all, like let's say Esperade, maybe Daojo White Label. Ketsui, I would say Ketsui is harder than Garegga. It places a lot of demands on your routing, and you need to have lots of dodging stamina to clear Ketsui. While Garegga, while difficult, I don't know. But the funny thing is, if you watch the YouTube channel The Hidden Fortress, and you should be watching The Hidden Fortress because he makes shmup videos, and he's been playing Garegga lately, and he's done some kind of early impressions videos or videos about how the process is going. And if you watch his latest Garegga run, which ends at stage 7, so it's not clear. And, you know, in his commentary, he talks about how, yes, he's enjoying the game, he's kind of learning it, but there's still a lot of things that he doesn't quite understand, and, you know, the routing maybe isn't quite there yet, and the end game's kind of a mystery, and all of these things. And sure, there's like some kind of deaths in the run that could have been avoided and everything. But the run still ends at stage 7, which is the final stage of the game, just before the final boss gauntlet. Now, to be sure, there's a difference between getting to the final bosses and actually clearing the game, because the end stretch is the most difficult part of the game. But that's still super good, getting to the kind of almost very end while not understanding the game completely or not having routed out the game completely. And I think the Hidden Fortress, I think he's done clears of like Daojo Black Label, Esperade, Espegaluda. I know he's been playing Ketsui but hasn't got the clear yet. So yeah, again, if you don't believe me when I say that I think it's kind of somewhere around something like Esperade, then watch the Hidden Fortress and watch him get to the almost to the end of Garegga with that kind of like skill of kind of a player who can clear a game like Esperade. So I guess that was the kind of first Garegga myth that I wanted to dispel, that yeah, it's difficult, the same way that a difficult cave 1-all is quite the task. But if you can clear, if you have some kind of like some cave clears under your belt, I don't think you need to be too intimidated about Garegga. But of course, Garegga is kind of a special case when it comes to actually understanding the kind of basic mechanics and the kind of, yeah, all the obscure, scary, obscure stuff. Now, obviously, I like Garegga because I'm making a video trying to get more people into the game. But I'm not going to claim that it's perfect, and I'm not going to defend the, let's say, obfuscation of core gameplay that the game does, like the way like auto fire works, or what things affect rank build up and how much, and how to set up special option formations. All of those things that you kind of need to learn independently of the or outside of the game. But that's just kind of the reality of the kind of development and release of Garegga, because the way that I understand it, the game's kind of a happy accident. Like, of course, there's like lots of design behind the game, but I think a lot of the core rank mechanic, I believe it was made to make the game earn more money. So I don't think they quite intended it to become so deep of a, let's say, scoring game. So it was kind of a 50% design, 50% accident, how it all came together. And if the game was made now, yeah, I think it would be weird to kind of make it all so obscure and invisible to the player. But that's just, you know, that's just how things went. It was created for the arcade environments and everything. The game is still good. And so if you want to savor that goodness, you need to do a bit of work. And here, you know, because with every shmup, I think the difficulty of any shmup consists of two things. Like there's the actual run that you do when you're going for a clear, the execution, but then there's the kind of the planning section and the kind of studying section where you're maybe kind of trying different ships, trying different routes, you know, watching other people's videos, reading up on the game. And with Garegga 2, the kind of the study, the kind of study part, it's I think it's probably way more involved than with any other shoot 'em up. But again, here, I think it's a little bit exaggerated because, well, again, personally, what attracts me to shmups is the kind of moment-to-moment gameplay and the exhilarating feeling that comes from it. But it's also about like getting into a new game and kind of really kind of getting into it and kind of studying the bosses, the stages, coming up with a plan, kind of seeing how other people do things differently. And for me, that's a huge part of the fun. Like I talked about in my last video, the Bullet Hell Life Lessons video, I talked about how learning is fun and then difficulty forces you to learn, and then it's kind of forcing you to have fun. And that's just like the way that my brain works. Of course, sometimes I like to play games where I don't need to kind of think at all. I can just kind of go into it and just kind of enjoy myself, have a blast. And again, there's no value judgment here. If you play shoot 'em ups just to kind of get into the game, just kind of fly around, blow stuff up, that's totally fine. It's totally fine. And then Garegga probably isn't for you, because I think it's a game that the kind of the deep pleasures of Garegga come from understanding the systems and understanding how each thing in the game is a decision. Not like super significant in itself, but then when there's like a decision a second almost, like the way, should I pick this up? Should I bomb here? What happens if I seal this tank? How does this thing affect my rank? It becomes this kind of deeply satisfying machine that's ticking away in your brain, where you're also doing the kind of the dodging and shooting and everything. If you just want to shoot and enjoy enjoy the kind of, just kind of the, very kind of the core shmup experience, just flying around and shooting, then yeah, probably Garegga isn't for you. But if you enjoy, again, if you enjoy like playing cave games and where you need to actually kind of like, let's say with Diojo, you kind of need to get into the routing, you need to think about like hyper usage and kind of a little bit of rank management, maybe how you're going to use your resources and all of that stuff. If you enjoy those things, I think you'd probably also enjoy Garegga. But you need to go into it with the mindset that the kind of the learning is the studying section maybe. The studying is just an integral part of the gaming experience. It's not just playing Garegga. Kind of learning about Garegga is a huge part of the experience. And if that's something that appeals to you, then if the thought of kind of studying a game sounds appealing to you, then again, Garegga probably is for you. And I know this is maybe going to sound a little standoffish or something to some people, but I don't think the basics of Garegga, they're not that complex. Like, if you watch my video Garegga, you watch Pearl's video that I used to learn the game. I think Mark MSX has a commentary, and maybe read around, like read Shmup's wiki page, like read some forum Reddit posts or whatever. I think those things are going to give you the essentials. Like, of course, you can always go deeper and kind of understand, oh, that's why my rank is going up at stage 3, because like hovering above those big ships actually means that I'm sealing their turrets and that raises rank and everything. So yeah, that can be cool, but again, I don't think it's essential to being able to play the game, enjoy the game, clear the game. Again, using the Hidden Fortresses run, getting to stage 7 without at least claiming not to understand the game. Yeah, you need to be ready to put in some effort and watch some videos, do a little bit of reading, but the core principles, there's not that many of them, like not hoarding lives, not picking up excess power-ups, being mindful of sealing enemies. That's almost it, like understanding how pressing a different button affects your ships. But yeah, watch those videos, read up some guides, and it shouldn't be much more complicated than that. Even the dreaded rank, and that's actually something that I want to discuss next. A lot of people seem to think that Garegga is difficult because of rank and rank control, but again, once you understand the kind of the essentials, like not hoarding lives and not picking up absolutely everything, the rank shouldn't climb crazy high. So that's not the thing that makes Garegga difficult, at least in my opinion. In my opinion, what makes Garegga difficult is stages 6 and 7, and especially the final bosses. Because, if you just kind of, again, understanding the basics, you're playing like stages 1 through 4, they're pretty easy survival-wise. What you're supposed to do, but kind of, they're there for you to kind of do a little bit of scoring and taking care of that rank, like not letting your lives pile up. You're kind of preparing for the second half of the game. And then stage 5, the famous cloud stage, that's kind of a roll of the dice, because it can go many ways, because there's like the boss rush and everything. And in some of my runs, I don't know, I did pretty well. And then I started off stage 6 with kind of a nice stack of lives and homing and everything. And in the run, which ended up clearing for me, I messed up the stage really badly. Like, I lost all of my lives and everything. And then I kind of started stage 6 in a kind of a risky environment, you could say. But then, yeah, even getting through cloud stage, not too difficult once you play the game for a while. But the actual challenge begins when you get to the stage 6 wall, the turret wall, which is like, if you don't have a plan for that, if you don't have resources, if you don't like know what to do, uh, it's going to end badly for you. And then after the wall, you get to the famous kind of tank crush section, which is, just goes on for a long time. And it's like you have to play very carefully because there's so many enemies, so many bullets, so many tanks point blanking you. So you kind of need to play a very focused game. And that can be difficult to sustain for a long time. Then you get to the stage 6 boss, and again, if you have a plan and everything goes according to plan, you have those bombs, you know when to bomb and when to dodge and everything, it can be okay, but it can also be super difficult and again wipe you out. And then you get to stage 7, and it's a very short stage, but again, need to play very deliberately during the stage section. And then you get Black Heart Mark II and Glow Squid. And those are just super hard because you get really busy patterns, but you don't get a hitbox for dodging those patterns really. So it's really scary. And unlike cave games where, you know, if you can carry your lives and bombs to the end, the kind of final boss can be free because you just got kind of bomb your way through it. But in Garegga, it's not really feasible to stack up on so many resources. I think in my clear, I got to the last boss with like 2 extra lives and I needed to use all of them. And even though I had a couple of bombs, they're just not enough to kind of clear the patterns and finish off the boss. So again, coming back to something like Esperade, the challenge is kind of similar, I think, because in both Garegga and Esperade, yes, you have to learn the game, but the game is kind of almost a prelude to the final fights, where you just kind of you play to get a chance at the final boss, and then the final boss is kind of unfair and mean. And that's honestly not kind of my favorite bit of design, really, though it does make for a memorable run, and the kind of final bosses, Black Hearts and Glow Squid, are pretty cool in Garegga. It can be also frustrating and a little unfair, as I say. But yeah, again, the challenge of Garegga, once you kind of understand what you need to do, it's not about rank control and it's not about like the first 5 stages. It really begins at stage 6 and culminates in the kind of getting the clear. It's kind of it culminates really in those final battles against Black Heart and Glow Squid, and you need to be ready for that. And once you can get far enough and you start battling against those bosses, I remember like if I look at my kind of the M2 shot triggers port, my saved replays, like most of my runs that I saved, they end at stage 7 boss. So it didn't take a long time to get to that point, but getting past that point, that was the kind of real battle. And I think that's the real challenge of Garegga, not the rank. The rank is actually, and this may be controversial, the rank system is more a kind of a merciful mechanic. It's there to, it actually takes the mental strain off the game. And I know this may sound crazy, but again, watch the Hidden Fortresses run, because he talks about this, where you know, when you're playing a cave game, if you die in stage 2, it's like, okay, that sucks, but whatever, let's keep going. And let's say you're playing Kitsui and then you die again in stage 3 and then you mess up the mid boss and don't get the hidden extent, then your chances of clearing go down dramatically because you messed up too early and you don't have enough resources for the end game when the game really gets crazy. Whereas with Garegga, like, even if you're not doing a lot of scoring, you're still going to get, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 extents during the run, and you start out with 2. And anyway, you're supposed to die in the first half of the game before reaching that stage 6 wall. to keep rank in control. So, if you die in stage 2, that's okay. That's what you would need to do anyway before reaching like maybe stage 5, stage 6. So just, again, you can't hoard like a bunch of lives for the final boss. You're going to get there, but maybe a couple of extra lives to spare, and everything else is there to be sacrificed for rank control. So when you die in Garegga, just think about it as rank control, and it can be actually easier than doing planned death sometimes, because if you're doing well, like really well in Garegga, let's say you're in stage 4 and you're like, I'm going to soon get my like 4th extend or something, and then you realize that you need to do a planned death, and maybe it's not the best kind of situation to do it in, and you're starting to overthink it, like, should I do a planned death here or wait for this next section or whatever? And again, it puts that strain on you. But if you just run into a bullet and die, it's like, okay, that was rank control. The game's a little bit easier now, and I would have needed to do it anyway. So really, rank is more of a friend than a foe in Garegga. Again, I know this sounds really weird, but once you get into the game proper, you will understand that this is actually true, and that the real challenge, the real FU is the 2-punch combo of Blackheart and Glow Squid. Just to reiterate, Garegga isn't easy. So if you get into the game after watching this video and get absolutely clobbered, that's normal in the beginning. But again, not impossible and not substantially harder than other like shmup clears that are considered tough. But just to kind of end this on a kind of a slightly different note, I know that, even with all this, there are still people who are maybe kind of not as experienced with shmups, who are interested in Garegga, but it's just too much for them. And that's okay, that's totally fine. And if you're still interested in the game or interested in the kind of style of Garegga, what I would recommend is playing Armed Police Batrider normal mode. Normal mode is the first 5 stages. I think it's like maybe 10 minutes long only. And it's a bit like easier than the full advanced mode. But the normal mode, it's super fun despite not being that hard, and you still get a taste for Rising style, and especially if you don't just play it for survival but actually try to score, like try chaining the medals in the normal mode, because again, it's an accessible length, 10 minutes, the difficulty isn't too high. So instead of just doing survival, try also doing some chaining and maybe figuring some other scoring tactics, like, well, maybe like bombing bosses and seeing that score rise up, because it's an more accessible kind of entry point into Rising style. And then if you play that for a while, get the clear, maybe do a little bit of scoring, and you find yourself enjoying it, then you know that getting into Garegga is probably worth it for you, even if it's kind of difficult at the outset. I'm hoping this video didn't sound arrogant or anything, because again, I don't want to claim that Garegga is easy. It's not, and it's definitely not a game for everyone. It's a game for people who like to really kind of study a game and like figure out different strategies, experiments, working with uncertain information. But I think its kind of reputation has been a little bit exaggerated. Like, it's not quite as difficult as I hear some people claim it sometimes. And I think the difficulty, again, it doesn't come from the rank as much as just the kind of really steep challenge at the end. But if that sounds like something that you're willing to overcome, I really recommend trying to get into Garegga and just take it slow, because the advice that I heard was not trying to understand it all at once and maybe, play play it for a bit, then let it rest, then come back to it after watching maybe a guide video or something, and then maybe trying something a little bit different, like trying to get into it like a little by little instead of trying to understand everything at once. Yeah, and that's all. Thanks for watching as always, and see you next time. Bye.